Heyo, welcome everyone to episode 7 of Today in the Scene. I'm Joe with Indie Arcade Wave, and this week I'm going to be diving into Galactic Battleground. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Can Arcade, Everything Arcade, Music, and Cannabis. This week we're going to be diving into one of the new indie arcade games that are coming out with this new wave of arcade games called Galactic Battleground. This week I'm speaking with the creators, Dylan and Kelly. How's it going, guys?
It's going, dude.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I know it's been kind of crazy with everything going on, so I just wanted to get you guys on here to kind of talk about the game so everyone can figure out what's going on with it during the situation. So tell me a little bit about Galactic Battleground. Let's start with how you guys came up with the idea and the whole story behind the origins of the game.
I guess I'll go first. I mean, we can go way back, or like the start of the game back. Let's go way back.
Yeah, let's go way back.
By trade, I'm a mobile app developer, and I do a lot of POCs, proof of concepts for different technology that comes out, and then Apple does a lot of stuff for game development and things like that. And I would tinker with it and make some games. And if I thought it was good enough, I would want to publish it and throw it out in the App Store because I thought it was worth it. And I would ask Dylan to make some art for me because I suck at art, but I'm good at coding. So a prime example of that is an app called Danger. It's a small little iPhone app, iPhone only. I built it because I wanted to test the local group play ability of the API that Apple provides, which is called Bonjour. And Dylan made some work of that and made some art to go with it. And
it was rubbish.
we put it on the Play Store, and it's still available today, by the way. I mean, the tech is actually still kind of cool. I mean, you can throw the app on two different devices, and they talk to each other, and you can play in a local couch co-op type experience, and it's pretty sweet. It's not network play like online; it's just local co-op, and it works. I still pull it out once in a while.
It's a riff off of the game Sorry, right?
No, Trouble. It's like Trouble.
Trouble. Duh.
Yeah, Trouble. It's basically like Trouble.
Kind of the same thing.
You gotta get your guys around the clock. Anyways, long story short is I pulled Dylan into my experiences of making apps, and eventually one day Dylan was like, "Hey, it's time to make my idea." I'm like, "Sweet, let's hear it," And Dylan said, "I like Galaga a lot." I'm like, "Okay, that's great, but let's research that a little bit more." And there's actually a ton of Galaga ripoffs out there. I mean, there's just a ton. Even I never pick a platform, whether it's Xbox, PlayStation, Apple TV, Steam, you name it. And I told him, I said, let's make Galaga, but let's just try putting a player on top and just see how it goes, And he whipped up some art that night, and I whipped up some code. We literally made
we made three power ups.
At least right? We made like 6. Black hole, shooting star, reflect. It was force field, which didn't make the final cut. Acceleration. I think it was like 6. Yeah, blast roll was there too. So, and we made like the first 6 power ups that night. Made like it was like a coding jam, just the two of us, and
we were drinking.
The weird thing is guess what platform we put it on?
The Apple
to test it out. It was the Apple TV. Yeah, so
I would have guessed, but I already know the answer to that.
Yeah, true. It was like the Apple TV was the first platform we tried it out just to see how it goes. And
this is like amidst me in college. I was probably like 18, just turning 9. Oh no, I was 19, just like middle 19. I was 19 and a half.
So when was this? We're talking like 2016.
I was a freshman in college when we started doing this.
It's like, is it 4 years ago now?
I was 19. Yeah, like 4 years. Yeah.
Wow, that's scary and awesome at the same time. But yeah, so we like sat there and we played it just head to head, and we just had a blast just playing against each other. Dylan's favorite, he just kept his favorite power up is shooting star to this day. He kept doing that. And I think we had Shockwave too in the time.
Oh yeah.
And, we just would. That was like the classic mirror match, or if you will, like Shockwave versus Shooting Star. He would go for the insta kills, and I would take the long game and try to kill each other. And we had a blast the two of us. We're like, all right, we think we might be
had like
something.
3 maps though. I remember we only did like 3 maps at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't much. I mean, it was a prototype, you know.
Yeah, it was alpha.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it came to be. Is like, we decided to take it, the prototype to the local the local
2D Con
gamer conference called 2D Con. So out to Shauna and the people that run that 2D Con. Those guys are amazing. We love them so much, and they like were very encouraging to indie developers. They're like, yes, we want to give you guys a space. We want you guys to be heard. We want you to be here at our conference, you know.
Yeah.
And she gave us a spot literally like right in front of the escalator. So we were like the first ones that people walked by. So everybody walked by us first. And it was crazy because people would like rubberneck it, you know. They would look at it and they're like, and they just keep looking but still walk in the same direction. It was hilarious. And then they stop maybe sometimes. They're like, is that Galaga? Like, no, it looks like Galaga, but it's not.
Kind of Galaga. If you like Galaga, play it, right?
Yeah. And we had our first tournament there, and we had we had like 16 players playing the tournament. It was great.
And that was like the first unveiling of like what Galactic Battleground was. We got a whiteboard out, we had 2 controllers, and like when we knew we had this game, like when we knew this game was good, is we had this like 12-year-old kid. I don't remember his name, but he played every day for like 4 to 6 hours. Like, it was like there's all these other games in this con, right? There's Oculus Rift, there's like all these other indie games and stuff that were really great too. But like this kid just played the shit out of our game, and we're just like, holy fuck, we have something.
We were like mind blown. We're like, oh my gosh, if this kid likes it. I mean, you know, you're competing with like the Fortnites of the world, or in Halo or whatever, you know. And it's like this kid was like all about it. You know, even his dad came by. He's like, "How you doing?" He's like, "I'm good. Let's go."
Yeah, he just came in to check on him and stuff. It was super cool.
Yeah, at that point, and we went to subsequent 2D cons, and he was like, "Do you remember me?" And he was like 16. I'm like, "No," but he's like, "I was that kid." I was like, "Oh my god!" And he
really,
yeah, he came back. You know,
no way.
Years.
That's insane, dude.
I wish I know his name because I would love to give him props, but I forgot. But
yeah,
at that
made
point,
a difference to us, dude. Whatever your name is.
Yeah, at that point, we were just like, wow, we should probably like reinvest some more time and keep it going, you know. So
yeah, but we kind of took a break for a while though when I was trying to finish up college. I know we like got the main mechanics and a little bit more power ups done, but like we took a break.
Well, we took a break because our initial goal was to go straight to Steam.
Yeah,
we didn't really think about arcades at all, honestly.
No, not at all.
And
so what was it that pushed you that direction?
So I remember when I told you about this game, and Joe, and we played it at my apartment when I was 20. We would
we just 3:00 in the morning after a concert.
Yeah, we just got back from a concert, and I was like, "You gotta try my game." And you played it, and you're like, "How do I get involved?" And then like I think it was like 4 or 5 months later, we started to like get more involved with it and started to come up with like a plan. And then I met Miles, and how I met Miles, who is our marketer, Miles Mitchell. I met him through work through a girl named Alex Thorson. And she was my coworker, and he was his boyfriend. Yeah. And I met him, and I gave him free fish tacos the first time I met him. And like he worked at Skyway, and like I don't know, we kind of just clicked. I was like, dude, SoCal surfer dude, I kind of talk like you, so like we like just became really good friends. And then Alex had a going away party because she was moving to Florida in August 2017. And no, yeah, it was either August or whatever. Anyway, she invited me over, and then I told him about the game, and I said, "Let's talk, let's link after." And then the next day, he hit me up, and then like he came over, and he played the game, and he's like, "Dude, you got to put this in an arcade. Like this game is meant for arcade." And I was like, "What? Really? Like why?" He's like, "You ever been to Up Down?" And like, "No, I haven't. I was 20 years old."
Yeah,
Like,
you weren't even old enough to
I
get in
wasn't
the
even
door.
old enough to get into the bar. And then I was like, "Okay, cool. Well, you gotta meet Joe. Like, we gotta link up, and like, I'll talk to Kelly about it, and I'd be like, hey, I want to put 2 other guys on. Let's
Yeah. Well, I got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, Joe did mention it before about arcades, and we were kind of like, yeah, we don't know if that scene's really working or anything like that. We actually had no clue about Up Down at the time. We're like, well, we didn't really know arcades were becoming a thing, which was
Yeah,
weird
seriously.
because it totally was, and we kind of just fell into this, and so between Joe and Miles keep like suggesting it, we actually I went up down for the first time, like, oh my god, there's actually this arcade scene that's actually springing up, and didn't know about Killer Queen. I saw Killer Queen for the first time, and I was like, wow, that's this thing is happening where people are actually reinvesting back in it. It's actually could be a profitable situation where people will come to play new games, because you can only play Pac-Man and Donkey Kong and all those other games so many times where you're going to want new content, to come back to and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. And like at that time though, too, we didn't even know what Killer Queen was,
Not really.
We were just
not really at all.
doing it just because we thought it was cool. So.
Yeah. So I mean, we've talked a lot with Tony and Dan and the guys over at Armed and Gelatinous, like Rob and Anthony, about how much the community has meant to them with the growth of their game. How much has the community meant to you guys by means of like conventions and meeting other people that are in the same area as you?
Honestly, like, it's the best thing ever. Like, when we first went to MGC, we had no idea what we were expecting. I mean, we had kind of like a little following at 2DCon, but it wasn't the same as MGC. To finally go there and be around people that are doing the same thing as what we're doing, it was kind of like shock and awe. Like, I had no idea, like, there's other games out there, and like I heard about it when we first went into Up Down about Deathball, but I had no idea who he was because he was still in San Francisco. This random dude, I don't remember his name, but he told me about Deathball and how fun it was because he was a Killer Queen fanatic. And like the scene at Up Down for Killer Queen is just like, it's like insane. Like all these people, 10 people playing a game, and how big the community is, and like they have like thousands of people on their, in Minneapolis in general, just playing that game. It's insane.
Yeah, we were just talking to Chaco last week about how big the scene was and how he kind of played a part in getting it going.
Yeah, I know. And like meeting Chaco and having him, dive deep into the game and like mechanics and like what would make the game better, because, the game wasn't polished when we first went into Up Down. We were still like kind of learning it, and trying to make everything balanced and stuff. And
speaking of that, tell me I really like this story. I mean, I guess I'm involved in it, but I really, really like the story of the prototype. Just how kind of just sporadic it was, but how it came out and how it's still doing really well for us.
Yeah.
So, like, when we decided we were going to make an arcade game, so when we looked at when we got the idea, like, let's see if we can make an arcade game, we went to Up Down, and I talked to the guy in charge there. His name's Eric Harvey, a super cool guy, and we can't thank him enough for supporting us during all this process. We basically, I literally pitched him the game on a laptop and showed it to him, and he's like, and I said, if I build a cabinet around this, would you be interested in let's try it out here? And he said, absolutely. He said, let's do it. And he was super supportive. Him and the staff was great about it, and so we decided, let's go. So we pulled our resources. We brought in another guy, Brody Whittle. Shout outs to him and helping us out to get that first prototype.
My high school friend.
We literally didn't know anything about making cabinets
No.
at all. We sit there and go like, well, if we make a box and put a TV in it, will that work?
I mean, Brody had some experience with CAD, which is a 3D design program, and he built the whole cab, like the framework of the cab, and that showed it to me, and I kind of critiqued it. And he's like, well, we got to make it wide enough for 4 people so they're not touching elbows and stuff. So like I was kind of like me and him was kind of hands on with it because we built it in his garage, which we only had like 5 feet of room in his garage to build it because he was working on his car.
Yeah, just an idea for the listeners here. This is a 2-car garage with a car and a couch in it. So that's the available space to build a cabinet.
And we had no idea what the fuck we were doing. And like I was getting free art printed at the Minnesota State Fair. I don't know if I'm legally allowed to say that, but
you just did. So
anyway,
it's too late now.
But like kudos to them for like helping us out, push something that was Minnesota born,
Meanwhile, those guys are making the actual cabinet. Meanwhile, I'm trying to figure out how to convert this game into that's normally was working on Apple TV with joysticks and stuff like that to convert to like arcade joysticks and setting all that up. And I'm not gonna lie, the first couple of passes were messy. They were not perfect by any means. We had a couple of breakdowns. I do remember one Saturday night where I was doing my NASCAR pit time and interchanging a joystick that broke down on player 2 and swapping out. Miles was there with his camera to give me some light while I swapped out a joystick at 7 p.m. on a Saturday just to get things going, keep it going for our demo there at Up Down. So we learned a lot. We eventually hooked up with a company called Paradise Arcade. Shout out to them. Brian Artemage and company, Tom Borg. They actually Chaco is the one that referred us to them, so it was a great referral. We eventually hooked up with them, got some great parts. Eventually got good, so to speak, at making arcade cabinets, and we eventually created a second prototype. The first prototype we upgraded many times. The original like framework is there. Original TV is there. We put a 42-inch TV that we bought, and we replaced the computer, and we replaced a lot of the components for the joysticks and stuff like that to make it up to snuff to handle all the abuse that happens during an arcade.
Yeah,
because all the button mashing. You need to have high quality parts, or otherwise you're just throwing your money out the window. But that cabinet, to this day, is still sitting in Can Wonderland and still producing for us, like it's a gem. Like we still get compliments from Can Wonderland and other people that are patrons there saying how much they like the game and stuff like that. So it's really humbling to keep that prototype there. And I think at this point, Can Wonderland would probably throw some sort of caution or some sort of red flag saying, you want to take this out? I don't think so, kind of thing, because Can Wonderland is all about like original art and things like that, and we kind of fit the mold of like unique things that you can't find anywhere else in the world, or let alone the Twin Cities. And we're very happy to be there.
Yeah, they're a really, really cool venue here in St. Paul that has it's kind of like an adult playground. They've got 2 different music stages, so you can see different kinds of acts. They've got a bar which has a whole bunch of like huge drinks. They've got like the big fish bowl and everything, so it's a big party spot. A ton of arcade games, and then they have in the warehouse, it's an 18-hole putt-putt course, and every course is designed by a different Minneapolis artist. So that's their big aesthetic there, is local art for local people. And that's why the game fit in so well there.
They also have a golf ball cannon.
When did that go in?
Like a couple months ago.
Oh, okay. So I definitely haven't seen that.
Yeah.
Huh. So I've got a question for you, Dylan, on the art side here. I want to know where you drew your inspiration for not only the pixel art in the game, but also the art on the sides, other than Galaga.
Okay, well, obviously it's a pretty close rip from Galaga. You know, I just wanted to be as close as possible, but I had to change it up a little bit. The first actual like creation of the pixel art, I wanted to kind of do like a Transformers vibe and kind of copy Starscream, and then I just did like off colors off of that to do it for the other players. And then like as we got further into the game, I was like, okay, well, we need more skins. Like, we need to have like two sides, right? And this was like pre-alpha when we did like the purple, red, blue, and yellow, right? So I made those, and then I was like, we started to go with the beta gamma because like we went from 1v1 to 2v2, so I had to totally do all this new art. So I made all these cosmetic changes, and we did gamma and beta because beta's blue and green's gamma. Um, so we based all that off of it, and then I had to redo the logo because the logo was set up and it was just not up to par. So I used a couple of fonts and I kind of meshed them together and kind of wanted to do this one style. It's called Blaster. So the marquee for Blaster, they have a lot of bitmap, right? So it's like all black dots, but it creates the illusion of gradient. So like it looks like it's like, you know, a gradient thing, but it's literally just one color with black dots and white dots. So I did that marquee like that with the stars and Galactic Battleground, and it took me, I was doing this at Minnesota State Fair, and it took me like forever to figure out how to do it because it was the first time I ever did it. And I got basically that reference from a book called Arcade. I bought this book, and it's like, I think it's like 15 euros, and it's from the UK, but they take all of like the old school nostalgia marquees and like kind of like a brief history from like the first game ever, Death Race, to like, you know, modern 1990s, you know, arcade machines. But they basically encase and like show the history of the art, and most of it's like vector based, and most of it wasn't like, you know, made from a computer and whatnot. So kind of got most of my inspiration for that. And then I kind of, for the side art, was kind of like off a whim. Like I like think of a fighter jet when they like, you know, like when they take a lift off and they do a flip, and that smoke kind of like widens and then gets smaller and then comes towards you. It's kind of like an
Yeah, kind of
illusion.
like you'd see it like an aviation show where like the
Yeah.
three planes go and they create kind of a cone sort of shape.
Yeah, so I just like thought like maybe like if the jets were there, like the smoke would come from all sides and it, you know, it'd make a weird like U shape. Like a, I think so, like, whatever. And it kind of looks like Atari a little bit, and then like the ship itself is kind of like a look from the Galaga cab itself with that alien side art. I don't know if you know what that is, but
Yep.
yeah, it's like an eyeball thing, and I kind of wanted to like riff it off of that. And then I made planets and comets that I took from Mad Planets and kind of just like did it my own way and figured out, you know, what colors I wanted. And yeah, it's just a lot
It's
of
totally dope. It's totally dope. I really am happy with the way it turned out. I mean, you only had one shot at it, really, because once it's set, it's set. You can't really change it once you make it. You know,
yeah,
it's kind of stuck on the side, and you nailed it, dude. It's great.
yeah. Thanks.
Let's talk about this marquee. Tell me why it's so unique.
Well, the marquee itself, like, well, we have an infinity mirror now.
Yeah, well, that's what I was getting at. What we have
Oh, Infinity Mirror.
the
Oh my
Infinity
gosh.
Mirror being so different from any other arcade game.
I forgot about that almost for a minute. Oh my gosh.
That's always something that people point out at conventions. That's one of the first things.
So
that they
initially,
notice.
we didn't even think about doing that. And Brian Armitage, the owner of Paradise Arcade, was like, "Well, dude, like, I have a fucking mirror cutter, like glass cutter. Let's just engrave Galactic Battleground in and do an infinity mirror." And we're like, "What?"
Yeah.
And then he just came up with the idea, and we did it. And then,
well, yeah, he wanted the idea. He wanted it to pop more because he wanted the more futuristic and give something to the cabinet to kind of draw people in a little bit more. That's, you know, you walk by, you know, cabinets and it's just got the stained glass and it's like, oh, that just looked like no. We actually got feedback that our cabinet looked too authentic in a sense, where it was like, oh, that looked like it was built in 1989. We even had some guys like, I remember this game when I was a kid. I'm like, that's cool because it didn't be invented yet, you know? And we're like, I guess we're maybe a little too authentic on our art. You know, we feel like we're from, you know, back then and stuff. So like Dylan said, Brian and Tom Paradise, they set it up and tried to make the marquee pop more, basically. And the Infinity Mirror was born. That was basically their brainchild, with the LED lights all around the outside. And they initially just ran the basic program on it. The LED lights was just basically a rainbow effect, 256 colors. And it was super cool. I mean, it looked really good. But I got to a point where I wanted to do more with it, because it was actually controlled by the same type of Arduino board that we use for our joysticks and stuff like that. So I kind of looked at that, and even to make a long story longer, I broke my arm in November, and I was on a lot of drugs, and I decided to look at that mirror. I'm like, I'm going to reprogram that to make it look cooler. And so I spent a whole weekend reprogramming the LEDs on the marquee to basically do this pattern where it looks like, two ships fighting each other, where the bullets are meeting in the middle, and they're pew-pewing at each other, and then they decide to say, screw it, they're gonna go fly each other, and they blow up in the middle, and they just convert in this lava phase where it's just lava all around, something like that. And we sent it to our first client down in Florida. Shout out to Glitch Bar, and they're like, "That's amazing."
Because the rainbow got kind of annoying though too.
It did. It's so overdone and stuff like that. And,
yeah.
So the Infinity Mirror was basically born because the cabinet needed to be flashy but not trashy.
Yes.
Yeah, it needed to feel like it was still new, like something that people have never seen before, versus something that they like. Oh, this is, I mean, we fit into the arcade mold and stuff like that, but you still need to get that thing to bring people in to like come to your cabinet. That's more important than people think. I mean, like Cosmotrons is a prime example of this. Like, their cabinets are amazing. They're white molding and stuff like that. They look gorgeous, and people just can't help but stop by and try the game. I mean, that's step one. It's like, you could have the most amazing game in the world, but if nobody like stops to try it, then no, it's not going to work. You have to have like this marketing box, which is a cabinet, to people to come in and just give it a try.
The box needs to be able to sell itself.
Yep.
Exactly. And we even toyed with like other things that we could do, like even the audio, like how you like have a light in the backyard where a light turns on when they sense this movement. We thought about even maybe making a audio controller in the front where it'd be like getting people to, where the game like says things to you as you walk by or something like that. But that wasn't going to work in the long run. But I mean, anything you can do to get a person to your cabinet is a bonus. So that's the biggest reason why we got the Infinity Mirror up there, and I think the product speaks for itself.
Yeah, I mean, it looks awesome. I love the way it looks. It looks really clean, but it also draws the eye in big time. You have to try the game. It just looks too cool to not try it.
Yeah.
So I think it's got a good balance. I mean, because like you got a lot of things like nowadays with those redemption games like that. That's all flashy lights.
Oh, it's too much, dude. It kind of hurts my eyes.
Yeah.
It's an eyesore.
I hate to throw Raw Thrills on the bus, but the new Turtles game is so many
LEDs.
So
loud. It's so loud.
It's just so bright and so many LEDs, and I think we draw a good balance of the LEDs and enough to where people can come in and check it out.
Yeah.
Right. Question for Kelly here. I've got a lot of indie developers that are hitting me up on Instagram talking about their games and kind of trying to introduce them to me. What's some advice that you would give a new indie developer to ease their transition from basically building it for a PC to pushing it towards an arcade cabinet?
Oh wow, that's a hard question. Like, what's a good transition to get them from console to arcade?
Just like an easy pointer, just a way for them to kind of ease that transition so that they're not pulling their hair out. Just one piece of advice. Basically,
I would just talk about game mechanics. try to keep your mechanics as simple as possible and as low number of buttons as possible. You know, your games, if you want to be an arcade indie developer versus just like a Steam or Xbox or pick your platform developer, your games have to be interesting enough in the first 60 seconds. Otherwise, they're not going to come back. You have to have that ooh-ah moment, if you will, where, you know, you have a black hole that sucks the guy in, and that's amazing. And you have a laser beam that kills everybody. You feel like you're in God mode for that brief moment. Yeah, you have that. I'm going to take other games references. You got that awesome shot by Deathball where he hits a bubble and it goes to the other side. You hit that death, switch and shoot where you just get 16 coins in a row. It's like, oh yeah, I feel so good. And it's that you have to have that hook that people come back for and want to do it again. Because if your game is too in depth and too complicated, it's not gonna stick, and people won't come back and put that second or third coin in because they're looking for quick fixes. They're not looking for this in-depth experience per se. They just want to spend their 25 or 50 cents or whatever the arcade is charging and have a laugh or a thrill for that 2 or 3 minutes and go on. So it's really challenging for a developer to make mechanics and make things work where it's engaging. And I think you guys nailed it in a prior podcast where like switch and shoot, for example, is the one button. Like it's it's one button, so that's a good start. And then to have interesting enough mechanics where it switches around and stuff like that, where it switches the player's direction and also shoots a bullet. Deathball's the same way, where that button drops a bubble and jumps the guy. It's like does two things, or you can slide with it and coming back to like Galactic Battleground. We have two buttons where it's a power up where it's your power up, but it could be different every time depending on your power up you pick. And it's important to capture those moments that are what we call breathless and make it so they want to put that quarter in and play again and again and again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really good advice along the line of switch and shoot. Like Dan just did such a good job building the cabinet, but shout out to the developer, Matt, I believe his name was. Just building a game that is so challenging but so simple at the same time. I mean, you have one button, but it controls everything at the same time. Like everything that you have to do in the game happens at once.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to dive into multiple buttons really quickly. Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat do that all the time, but and games go up from there. But arcades just can't do that. You gotta be simple, stupid, but still interesting enough where people want to play it again.
Simple, stupid, but there's gotta be a range of skill so that there's actually a reason to keep coming back.
It's a fine line to come through because all the games that we talked about today do that to a certain extent, where the button you have one or two buttons and they all do things, whether you tap it or you press and hold or you tap it and do it in a direction. I mean, you guys nailed it in another podcast where talking about the Super Mario Brothers stuff, and there's 8 different directions that joystick. Where there's 8 different directions where that joystick goes, and it's not straightforward right away because everybody thinks that's just left, right, up, down. They move your character, and that's it. It's just not that simple. It's all about like, what if I do this direction and push a button? You think about that and you nail that, then you got yourself a winner.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that one. Let's get those social media shout outs here before we wrap everything up from you guys. Where can we find you on social media?
You can find us at Galactic Battleground on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and for Twitter, it's GBG_the_game for Twitter. But everything else is at Galactic Battleground.
Awesome. Well, that's going to wrap it up for episode 7 of In the Scene with Galactic Battleground this week. Thanks for coming on, guys. We'll definitely have to do it again.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, Joe. And
thanks,
Dylan.
everyone.
Much appreciate it.
Certainly.
Later.
Peace out, guys.